friends. I know today's video is something a little bit different for me, but it's something that I think will be fun and hopefully some of you guys will enjoy this. This is going to be an expanded version of a 1-minute short that I did where I matched up books to all of the songs in the new Lil Nas X album, Montero. So at least a couple of you guys had commented on that saying you'd be interested in hearing more about my reasoning, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of happy to have the opportunity to talk about this more at length. I started following Lil Nas X after Call Me By Your Name kind of blew up. I didn't know anything about him before that, which I think is probably true of a lot of people. And I started following him on TikTok, followed some of the other songs as they came out, and then, you know, cried listening to Montero. And that dropped. And it's been interesting for me because this is a period in my life where for the first time in quite a while, I'm feeling more attached to music. I was very into music in like high school and college, and then just kind of got busy with things and it hasn't been a priority for me. And then for whatever reason in the last little while, I've been starting to rediscover musicians and things that I love, and it's been a lot of fun for me. Lil Nas X has been a piece of that for me. I know he's not necessarily everybody's cup of tea. He's super controversial, but honestly, I kind of love it, and I find it really inspiring as a creative person to watch people like Lil Nas X or Lizzo who are just sort of unabashedly themselves and willing to be like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. I am going to create, and I'm going to create space for myself. And I think that's so important and so valuable and is, you know, paving a path for other people to come afterwards. Also, oh my God, it's just wild to me. He's 22 years old and he's so talented and like kind of a genius at marketing, honestly. He's just like, it's been interesting following him on social media over the last few months and seeing like what he's done to like build hype for his songs and his albums. I saw an interview with him where somebody compared him to Madonna in terms of being this kind of cultural zeitgeist who's very polarizing, and I can see it. Honestly, I think he's gonna be kind of an icon. So here's the thing, Lil Nas X became notorious for Call Me By Your Name, where he was coming out as gay, and it's the one with the, you know, pole going down to hell and giving Satan a lap dance and then unaliving him at the end. Call me when you want, call me when you need. It's very, I mean, he does stuff that gets a reaction, but also I think he thoughtfully will do things that really point out the hypocrisy of the music industry in terms of the way that queer people are treated. I'm gonna get to the books and kind of why I paired the books that I did with specific tracks and talk about my thinking through it. But first, I kind of wanted an opportunity to talk a little bit about why I even wanted to make content about this in the first place and why I've been following his career. So his latest music video, That's What I Want, which is a fantastic song, is really interesting because it does things that people in the music industry and music videos have been doing for years and years and years. The only reason it's controversial is because it's with two men and it's not a heterosexual relationship. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the boldness and the willingness to be like, hey, this is who I am, you're okay with it over here, so like, what's the problem? Okay, but that aside, I kind of feel like Montero as an album is really stunning and really shows the breadth of music that he's into and wants to create. It's raw and deep and gets into some really serious topics. I don't know, you know, some of you guys maybe haven't listened to all of the tracks on it, but he pulls from so many different musical genres, which I find really fascinating. And lyrically, I just find it to be such a powerful album. And it's an emotional roller coaster, honestly. There's like fun, silly, sort of like FU type songs, but then there's also these really intensely emotional, raw, vulnerable songs on the album, and I love it. I loved it so much that I was like, I want to make content about this. I don't see anybody else really posting about this, and I even like have tried to kind of see if any of my friends are into his music enough that they would want to do this with me, but I didn't know of anybody. So I'm hoping to throw this out there so that I can invite some of you who maybe have not been sure if you want to give him a try to be like, hey, like check him out. I think he's actually very talented and is doing some important work in these songs. And hopefully the pairing of the books with the music will do that. But also, if there are some of you who are already fans of Lil Nas X and his music and what he's doing, we can just like gush about it together and it'll be great. So I don't know how this video is gonna do. I don't know how many people in my audience actually care about this, but it's something that I wanted to do and I care about it, and so we're doing it. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into all of the books. There are 14 songs on the album and I have a book pairing for each one of them, and I will tell you why. The first song on the album is Call Me By Your Name. This is the one that he's most known for, most notorious for. And what I think is interesting about this song is in some ways it's about forbidden love, it's about angst, it's about a dark, maybe even toxic relationship. And so the book that I picked for that is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. So this is a YA dark fantasy romance with an asexual biromantic heroine and a romantic subplot that is all of those things. It's dark, it's angsty, it's kind of toxic, it's forbidden love, and I feel like this is the perfect book to kind of evoke the vibes of Call Me By Your Name. I treat you like you're dead right now. So Dead Right Now is this interesting song that's about a person he maybe had history with, a person who mistreated him, but now wants to have a relationship again and maybe regrets what they did, but he's like, no, sorry, you're dead to me, basically. You might want to F with me, but you can't. And so the book that I picked for that is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis, because the heroine in the story had been sort of like a magical showgirl in a place run by a magician, and he doesn't want to let her go, but he doesn't necessarily treat her the best in various ways that I don't want to spoil, and so she runs away to the city to try to make a name for herself, to achieve the fame that she really wants, and he wants her back, but she's like, no, sorry, like, you had your chance to let me get what I want, you didn't do it, we're done. So I feel like her as a character really evokes what this song is about, but it's dark, it's angsty, it's complicated. This is another YA fantasy that's kind of like Phantom of the Opera meets Moulin Rouge, except with magicians, and I loved it. So Industry Baby is a fun song. It's like a great music video. This is a song about getting to the top, bringing a new generation or a new order to the industry, in this case the music industry, but I think we could apply it to other things when we're talking about books. He talks about people who weren't really rooting for him anyway, but that he has what they really want. And the book that I thought was a good fit for Industry Baby was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a book about a class revolution. It follows a man who becomes radicalized after his wife is executed, and even though he's from the lowest caste in the Mars society, this is sci-fi, it is set on other planets, but he becomes radicalized, undergoes all of these like surgeries and different things so that he can pose as somebody from the top caste level and sort of break everything down from the inside out. So again, this is about somebody who is unexpected, not what people thought they want, they wouldn't have rooted for him, but he is rising to the top. He's bringing a new order to things, he's bringing a new generation into the way that things are run. And so I felt like that was the perfect fit for Industry Baby. That's What I Want is definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's cute, it's a song about love, it's a song about longing. The first line is, need a boy that can cuddle with me all night. It talks about a love interest with dark skin. And so of course I'm gonna go with a romance for this one. I picked Meet Cute Club by Jack Harbin. This is adorable. It's an own voices male-male romance where one of the love interests is a biracial black man, and it's just really, really cute. Their relationship is adorable. One of them runs a romance novel book club and the other joins to kind of get to know him, and it's just very cute, very sweet, and I feel like the perfect match for That's What I Want. So Scoop is kind of a fun song. It's got very Gossip Girl vibes to it. It's kind of about like money and wealth and wanting attention or notoriety. I just want to be the daily scoop, like from the news. But of course, because this is a song where the singers are Black, they're also talking about getting that notoriety, getting that fame, getting that wealth when they've come from a background where people aren't expecting it from them, but they're still kind of flaunting it. And so the book that I paired with that was Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyamide. This is like Gossip Girl meets Get Out. It is so good. It's such a page turner. It's this like YA thriller set at an elite private school where these two characters are the only black kids at the school, and things start to get really weird. It's great. I feel like it's a really good fit for Scoop. One of Me is a song that I think is really going to resonate for anybody who is a content creator, who's on different platforms, because it's a lot about being in the spotlight. It's about people wanting different things from you. Do this here, don't you do that, I like this, I don't like that. And at least my interpretation of it is the way that when you put something out in the world, when you're creative, people can sometimes have a response to it that is appropriative, where they feel like, oh, I can tell you that I like this thing you did, but I didn't like this thing that you did. I want you to be like me. I want you to do the things that I want you to do. And so it's kind of a song about external control. So the book I paired it with is Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. This is a really interesting book that I appreciated. It's kind of a dark feminist thriller following a bunch of girls at this private boarding school where they're being groomed to be the mistresses, wives, and daughters of wealthy and powerful men. And it's disturbing. There's a lot of really disturbing things that go on in here, but a lot of it is about controlling behavior of like what you should be like and what you shouldn't be like. And so to me, that felt like a really good fit for One of Me. So Lost in the Citadel is about a breakup. It's about a toxic relationship. It's about a person who wants to come back around even though things are over and need to stay over. But it's also a song about being devastated by the end of that relationship and needing time to grieve and pick the pieces back up. So the book that I paired this with is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quindlen. This is an interesting book because on the one hand, it does have a romance at the heart of it, and I love the romance. It's a sapphic relationship that starts out as fake dating between these two girls. But a big part of the plot here is that she has recently broken up with a girlfriend and really isn't over it yet. And part of this is her character arc of having to learn how to let go of that, having to learn to recognize the toxicity of her past relationship and grieve and heal that loss before she's really prepared to give her heart to somebody else. So I think She Drives Me Crazy is a good fit. I'm the same $sign slime, they go ahead. $sign Slime is really entertaining. It's in collaboration with Megan Thee Stallion, and it is this brash kind of song about success and getting rich and kind of being like, yeah, that's right, I'm successful, I'm not gonna do manual labor anymore. And kind of this vibe of like, regardless of where I came from, you're just gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm here now and I can afford all the stuff you can afford. In some ways, it's kind of critiquing elitism or ideas about who should or shouldn't be successful and sort of pushing it back in people's faces. It's a fun song, and the book that I think pairs well with this is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, because this is a revenge narrative that is also about somebody who started with nothing, was mistreated, and then has come back bigger and better with plenty of money to do whatever he needs to do to seek the revenge that he desires. And I feel like that has a similar vibe to what $sign Slime is doing. Okay, we're getting to the part of the album that has a lot of raw, intensely emotional content to it. Tales of Dominica is kind of tragic. It's about growing up in a broken home. It's about trauma from childhood. There's also a line that says, "Hope my little bit of hope don't fade away." And you know, the damage that abusive parent-child relationships can take and the toll that that can take. So the book that I'm pairing with this is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. This is kind of a literary take on Southern Gothic horror that is very dense in its ideas, but the main character is a young woman who's experienced a lot of trauma, who grew up in a really abusive situation and then ran away as a teenager when she was pregnant with twins. And it's about her being in the forest and raising these twins, and like weird stuff happens, and she had grown, I mean, there's like weird stuff that happens. She had grown up in almost like a cult type situation. And I mean, it's horror. It's got paranormal stuff in it. But I think what's interesting is that this is really a book about trauma. It's a book about how the way that you're raised and the experiences you have as a child can be so formative and can be places where you can pass on pain to your children and further generations. but it's also a book that is very hopeful, where despite everything, the main character has this little bit of hope that they're holding on to so tightly and doesn't want to fade away. And so I feel like thematically, this is very much in line with Tales of Dominica. Sun Goes Down and Void, which is the next track we'll talk about, are both rough ones. They deal with suicidal ideation and mental health. Sun Goes Down specifically talks about being queer and praying for God to take that away. It talks about experiencing bullying, about difficult mental health issues. It's really raw, it's really vulnerable. And it's dealing with those deep levels of depression and how religious homophobia can be weaponized against young people and experienced. So because of that, the book that I chose for this song was The Death of Vivek Oji by Akweke Emezi. This is a heartbreaking story set in Nigeria that follows a young trans person who was raised as a boy in a fairly conservative religious environment. And as a result of the homophobia they experience, we know from early on in the book, it's led to their death. And there's been mental health issues, there had been bullying, there had been violence that had come out of it. So I feel like this book deals with very similar themes to Sun Goes Down. It's not an easy read, but it's a very, very powerful one. Track 11 is Void. It's about wanting to run away from life. It's about feeling trapped in loneliness. It's a song that reflects on parts of life that are empty or haven't been fulfilling or weren't what you thought they would be when you started out. The book that I'm pairing with this is Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a very quiet, thoughtful character study following a traditional English butler at the end of his career, late in life, who kind of escapes from the house that he spent all his time in, where he never really took vacations or did anything. And he's finally running away from his life, so to speak. He's going on a trip through the countryside and reflecting on his life, reflecting on moments of loneliness, on places where he lost out on love that he could have had. And I just feel like in terms of vibes, this is kind of similar. It may not be quite as bleak as Void is as a song, but a lot of similarities. Track 12 is also still kind of raw, but a little bit more hopeful. I feel like we're kind of moving towards brighter moments. It's a song about having found fame and riches, but being sorry for things that you've done in the past, for past mistakes. And it's a song about having found that success, but still being lonely, yet having hope for the future. So the book that I thought was a great fit for this is How to Stay by Christina Mitchell. This is one of my favorite romances that I've read this year. And what's interesting about it is it follows two characters who are very broken, who are kind of finding love and healing together, who knew each other when they were children, had been apart for many, many years. And now the heroine, who has achieved fame and fortune, she's become this big rock star, but her dad has died, and so she's coming back to town and reconnects with her childhood best friend who had always been in love with her. It's definitely a story where she's found this fame and fortune, but she's lonely and she has regrets about her past. And all of that is stuff that's kind of unpacked as this really beautiful romance unfolds. So, How to Stay, I think, is a great fit for the song. What you want from me? Life After Salem is a song about a toxic relationship where this person is maybe finally recognizing the toxicity of the relationship. Some of the main lyrics in the song are, "Take what you want from me. Why don't you just take what you want and leave?" And so the book that I wanted to pair with that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's also a book about these dark kind of toxic relationships, about people who want things from each other and a character who maybe needs to come to recognize that those relationships are toxic, that they're going to take what they want, but then maybe they need to leave. It has that same kind of darkness. It's got a similar kind of vibe to it. This is dark academia. It's got characters who are not necessarily good people, and it's a bit of a polarizing book, but I really liked it. Never forget me and everything I've done. Finally, number 14, the very last track on the album, and I think maybe my favorite of them all. This one was in collaboration with Miley Cyrus, and her vocals on this are just beautiful. Okay, so immediately, I thought of the perfect book to fit these lyrics. I'm actually gonna read you some of the lyrics from this song before I show you the book because I just want you to see how like perfectly it fits. Every song, every dream filled with help from beyond. As I'm sinking, I relive the story. I'm like skipping through, oh, never forget me and everything I've done. Never forget me, like I'm your favorite song. I'm fading, replaying these thoughts I thought while sinking down. So it's this song about dreams and stories and memory and retelling things and like this longing for love maybe. And so I think the perfect book for this is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is a book about memory, a book about storytelling, about dreams, and it just has a really similar vibe to it. If you even watch like the sort of, it's not like a full music video, but they have kind of a little video thing. Maybe I'll like link it up above if you want to see it. But if you watch the thing that they created for this song, the vibes are very similar to what I imagine in The Starless Sea. And I love this book. I love the song. I think they're a great fit. This was a longer video than I expected it to be, but honestly, I have just been loving this album. I've been loving following Lil Nas X's career, and I'm curious to see what he does more of. I think he's a really talented writer and musician, and I think he's doing important things in the music industry. And also, I love all of these books. I think every single one of them is amazing, and so if my talking about it sparked an interest in not only listening to the album, but maybe reading the book, you know, you're welcome. I hope I could add to your TBR. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the books that I picked for the songs. And for question of the day, if you want to pick one of the songs and tell me a book that you would pair with it, I'd be curious to hear some of your picks. So talk to me in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. I relive the story. As I'm sinking.